So, my Genius Hour project, or the question was, the 21st century, the next World War. The reason why I asked this was the recent events with Ukraine and the Middle East and ISIS. How can this question be answered? You kind of need to know what the meaning of the Cold War means. I just did a simple Google search. A state of political hostility between two countries characterized by threats, propaganda, and other measures, short of open warfare in particular. Yes. How do we approach this question? The First World War was defined a generation that had significant events that shaped nations. In order to answer this question, I'm just going to compare it to the previous one. End of a war, start of another. 1945 marked the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, with decaying U.S. and Soviet relations. 14 years later, about 1950, the Korean War started. The beginning of political hostility between Russia and the United States started. 3,200,000 U.S. troops entered Korea. U.S. government also spent about $1 trillion on this war. Early 1991 was the end of the first Gulf War. 10 years later, September 11, 2001, marked the beginning of the global war on terrorism. 2.5 million troops served in Iraq and Afghanistan. The U.S. government also spent an estimated $6 trillion in these two alone. During the Cold War, Soviet Union created the Warsaw Pact due to NATO. Kind of scared. Basically, you can't really see it, but Russia, Kazakhstan, and Armenia created they're creating their own economic union called the Eurasian Economic Union that will start January 1st, 2015. That will allow them to have a GDP of $4 trillion. It just kind of shows that they're trying to recreate the Soviet Union but under a new name. Russian aggression. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979 and didn't leave until 1989. Although they were defeated, their main goals were to take territory, increase their economic strength, and show the world the mighty Soviet forces. This led to the Russian-Georgian War of 2008 and the Ukrainian crisis of 2014. Although these were both Russian victories, their main goals were the same: to gain territory, show military strength, and increase their economic might. And the difference between the previous war and these ones are they actually succeeded. Now, China didn't play as much of a big role in the previous Cold War as it will theoretically happen in the current one. But just like in the First Cold War, China will play a big role. They will pose a bigger threat to us now because their GDP is going to overtake ours. The reason being is that in 7 years, 2021, China's predicted to have a GDP slightly bigger than ours, and in 16 years have a GDP double ours. Military firearms will isolate the Asian continent by force. This new strength, this can be compared to the times that China invested millions and billions of dollars in North Koreans and Viet Cong / North Vietnamese. Right now it's just a game of politics with them. The effects of the First Cold War. Because of the Cold War, the United States now has a military presence in over 150 countries. Military budget of about $750 billion with a military personnel of about 2.28 million people. The Vietnam War alone only had 1.5 million troops and a budget of almost the equivalent of what we spend yearly. And then this is just basically a chart showing U.S. budget on defense compared to the rest of the other countries. We spend more than we spend more on defense than the top 15 countries, other top 15 countries besides us, of course. Now, how does any of this impact us? Currently, it's too early to tell. The First Cold War created its own generation, such as the hippies, which is the counterculture movement. Many people wanted peace, went to anti-war demonstrations or rallied on campus. Events such as Woodstock happened, and many riots took place. For now, it's anyone's guess on how this will actually affect us. What's in the news today? It's kind of silly stuff, but I'm sure you've heard about the Ukrainian crisis on television, and the downing of Malaysian Flight 17 by Russian separatists. And other day, U.S. just deployed 6,000 troops in Poland, and Russian jets are bothering NATO and just escalating tensions. And this is then my slide. These are my sources.